Hi everyone, I'm Keith Mathis with the Mathis Group. We are a premier ATP with the Project Management Institute. Our video series, 7 Minutes to PMP Mastery. Today we're going to be dealing with power skills identified and analyzing key stakeholders. As we start trying to understand how to analyze stakeholders, we have to come at this with a PMI mindset, or we're going to choose the wrong answer consistently. Remember, on the test, you're choosing the best answer, not the right answer, because there could be multiple right answers given the circumstance. So you're identifying and analyzing stakeholder means determining who can affect the project, who may be affected by the project, who believes they may be affected, what each stakeholder needs, expects, fears, controls, or influences, and how much attention and involvement each stakeholder requires. Stakeholder challenges. So a stakeholder may be an individual, group, or organization, a regulator, a supplier, a customer, a user, a sponsor, operational department, community, or any other party connected to the project. I want you to see this because sometimes people will mistakenly assume that a stakeholder happens to be just the team or just the team and the sponsor. But you'll notice that PMI has a very broad sense of what a stakeholder is. The critical PMP distinction is identification determines who the stakeholders are, analysis determines which stakeholders require particular attention and why. The mindset also goes on into understanding the difference in a key stakeholder. Key stakeholder does not simply mean the person with the highest organizational title. A stakeholder becomes key because the stakeholder possesses significant power, influence, impact, interest, legitimacy, urgency, knowledge, decision authority, or exposure to the project outcomes. They are a key stakeholder. As part of this also, you must understand before acting, tailor rather than generalize, and engage rather than avoid. When a stakeholder problem appears, the project manager should normally avoid jumping immediately to escalation, confrontation, removal, or a generic communication response. So this is another one of the emphasis areas in the PMP test, where before acting and choosing an answer that involves the doing, you're looking at tailoring it and making sure it fits this particular situation. So there's going to be some analysis and evaluation up front before doing, and that's going to follow all the way through in all of your questions. So the PMP stakeholder analysis, I had ChatGPT actually create this to kind of show you the span of what this would look like. And so you've got your basic stakeholder list and then a deeper stakeholder analysis. And so I had it do this to be able to show us the full breadth of what we're talking about here. So you notice you have stakeholder, relationship, the attitude, expectations, authority, influence, potential impact, communication need, and supportive and obstructive. And this is what we're talking about and what PMI is talking about when you're analyzing the stakeholders, understanding all of these different type of components. A lot of times when we think about it, we don't think about all these different pieces, but these pieces are very important to the stakeholder analysis. So let's look at some of the different components here and see how the exam-oriented questions would come about. So the first one is that attribute is going to be power. And so can the stakeholder approve, stop, fund, redirect, or constrain the project? Interest. How closely does the stakeholder care about the work or the outcome? Influence. Can the stakeholder shape the other person's decisions? Impact. How significantly will the project affect this stakeholder? Attitude. Is the stakeholder supportive, neutral, resistant, or unaware? Legitimacy. Does the stakeholder have an appropriate claim or recognized involvement? Urgency. How quickly must the stakeholder's concern be addressed? Expectations. What outcome or behavior does the stakeholder anticipate? Knowledge. Does the stakeholder possess essential expertise or information? And then communication need, what information, detail, frequency, channel, and feedback method are appropriate. These are great questions to be able to understand what PMI is shooting for with all of these attributes over on the left-hand side. PMI usually expects us to do certain things first. So when the question says, what should the project manager do first? Or it might say, what would you do first? They're really not talking about what would you do first. Look for an answer that involves assessing the situation, not action, assessing. And then meeting with the stakeholder, clarifying the stakeholder needs or concerns, reviewing existing stakeholder information, identifying an omitted stakeholder that was forgotten, for an example, and then analyzing the power, the influence, the impact, the urgency, or the expectation. Let's take a look at an example PMP exam question that might help you in this area here. So a project manager is leading a predictive enterprise resource planning implementation. The project has entered user acceptance testing. A regional compliance director who is not listed in the stakeholder register informs the project manager that the proposed implementation may conflict with regional reporting practices. The director has the authority to stop deployment in that region, but has not yet identified a specific regulatory violation. The sponsor tells the project manager to schedule an executive product demonstration immediately so that the director will support the implementation. What should the project manager do first? A, ask the sponsor to resolve the matter because the compliance director has authority outside the project manager's organization. B, submit a change request to incorporate the regional reporting practices before continuing user acceptance testing. C, add the compliance director to the stakeholder register as a high power stakeholder and begin sending daily project status reports. Or D, meet with the compliance director and appropriate subject matter experts to clarify the director's authority concerning expectations, project impact, urgency, and information needs, and then update the stakeholder analysis. So take a look at this. Which answer would you pick? You got it? Let's take a look and see if you're right, and then we'll examine the others. So the correct answer was D. The compliance director is a newly identified stakeholder with potential authority to stop part of the deployment. However, the project manager does not yet know whether the concern represents a legal requirement or a local preference, the specific impact on the project, the director's expectations, the urgency and legitimacy of the concern, what information or involvement does the director require, whether other compliance stakeholders also need to be identified. The project manager should therefore investigate and analyze before selecting an engagement, communication, escalation, or change response. Meeting with the director and relevant subject matter experts allows the project manager to gather reliable information, determine the stakeholder power and impact, and understand the nature of the concern. So this has everything in it of the best answer, because you're meeting, you're analyzing what's being said, and then you're going to make your decision. So let's look at the other answers. So ask the sponsor to resolve the matter. This escalates the situation before the project manager has established the facts. The sponsor may eventually need to participate, particularly if there is a governance or organizational authority conflict. However, the project manager should first understand the compliance director's authority, the basis of the concern, the potential project impact, the required decision path. Immediately transferring this matter to the sponsor avoids the project manager's responsibility. So to identify and analyze stakeholders. Next, submit a change request. A change request is premature as well because you don't know anything. So just submitting a change request takes it away from you. The other thing, at the C, add the director and begin daily status meetings. Adding the director to the stakeholder register is a right, but daily status meetings is an unsubstantiated communication strategy. The project manager has not yet determined the director's preferred communication method, the necessary level of detail, the appropriate frequency, and whether the director requires reports, consultation, review authority, or decision. This answer classifies and communicates before completing the stakeholder analysis. More communication is not automatically better communication. Now, if this video has been beneficial to you for prepping for the PMP exam, don't hesitate to pass it around to others that are getting ready to do this. This is all updated to the newest changes to the PMP test. We're a premier ATP with Project Management Institute, and so everything we're talking about focuses on the exam content outline. Now, if you're interested in having project management classes on for your people, we can do it on site or we can do it virtual. Here is the pricing per class, and so you can put up to 20 people in for this price, and we'll do it virtually. And if you want to have it on site, we will. The only difference in the pricing will be mileage and transportation to get us there and get us back. And so, if you want to look through our book of courses online, we have some 55 different courses that we can bring. All of them are registered with PMI, and we can bring it on site for you. For those of you who are interested in the PMP boot camp, we do private group boot camps as well. You have to have 10 people. It's $15.50 per person with those 10 people in the boot camp. And so we will do a virtual PMP exam prep boot camp just for your company. And so you can contact Wanda and she can tell you what dates we have open to be able to do that. If you don't have 10 people, you can filter your people into our public boot camps, which happen every other month. I teach those as well, but it allows you to be able to tap them in and not have to have 10 people, or you can trickle some of your people through and not have to have all your people in training for that same week. If you've enjoyed watching the video and I can help you in any way, whether it's going to be doing the PMP boot camps or whether it's going to be doing PDU classes for you, just give me a call, send an email, and Wanda will look for dates and availability for us. So if I can help you in any way, I'd love to. So thank you so much for watching the video. And so I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye now.